Vigilant Audio SwitchOne review. They're surprisingly good sounding speakers for any PC setup. And bedroom producers will appreciate the ability to change the speaker's sound profile to match their production needs. It doesn't come with USB connections, but it does include Bluetooth and several other inputs. The Vigilant Audio SwitchOne is a set of active computers that function both as studio monitors and bookshelf speakers. And, although that sounds like a matter of having two identities, it mostly functions. Smaller than many studios and bookshelf, active or passive, they're powerful with a frequency range to meet most people's requirements. And, although there's some nuance to that, particularly if you're looking for a studio monitor, the price is worth the investment. With so many options available today, it's hard not to be impressed by the quality of some of the audio equipment out there. However, when we look at SwitchOne, we feel that the cons far exceed the advantages. When comparing them to other computer speaker combinations, the SwitchOne is relatively compact and lightweight. However, there are other speaker systems that are even smaller and lighter than the SwitchOne. The design itself is fairly straightforward. It looks similar to other bookshelf speakers that come with 3 4-inch dome tweeters and 4-inch woofers and black enclosures. If anything, it stands out from its competitors by having passive radiating panels on either side of the enclosure. On the front of its left side, you'll see an auxiliary port, a headphone jack, and volume control. We appreciate the fact that the volume control has a little click when it's perfectly centered, which means the volume is set to 50%. It turns smoothly otherwise. On the rear panel, you'll find a pair of stereo line outputs, a single mono output, and then a headphone jack. You also get 2 sets of RCA jacks, 1 set of balanced XLR connections, and finally a USB Type-A port. In addition to those physical connections, you'll find a dedicated control section on the front of the unit, including buttons for power, volume, and mute. The only things that are really lacking to make these the perfect companions to a computer setup are USB connectivity. However, Bluetooth allows you to connect almost any modern device, including smartphones, tablets, computers, and smart TVs. So if you're not attached to wired connections, then Bluetooth is definitely worth considering. While they do introduce a slight amount of latency, they still sound fantastic when connected via Bluetooth. These speakers also come with a 3.5mm audio cable that can be used to connect them to devices that aren't Bluetooth compatible. When it comes to audio equipment, no matter your needs, the sound must be excellent. It doesn't matter how much power or features you get, if the sound is bad then it's not worth it. Fortunately, the Vigilant Audio SwitchOne delivers great sound without being too loud or distorted. Even though we had trouble distorting them, they sounded fantastic. The audio output is very clear and loud, with a nice balance between the highs and lows. The frequencies are not distorted, so if you listen closely, you can hear the difference between the various settings. You might find that the hi-fi setting gives your music an extra punch, and the studio setting provides a smoother experience. We found that switching between hi-fi and studio modes affected the sound differently depending on the song. However, overall, we preferred using studio mode because it made the sound seem more present. If you're looking at studio monitors, that isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you'll need to spend much more than you'd expect. They do the jobs pretty well, just be aware of their overall sounds. Otherwise, you might end up making music that sounds a little dull. Since there is more than one way to connect, we made sure to also tested Bluetooth audio. Pairing is easy. All we had to do was hold down the pairing button for a short time and pull up the Bluetooth settings on our device to pair. And, the audio quality is surprisingly unchanged from a regular analog connection. Of course, there's a little laggy, so Bluetooth connectivity is best used for listening to music.